Hi, my name is Alexa Baca, and this is my final presentation for Dr. Olivari's 5100 course. And this is my presentation, Support for Henry. So we'll start off with who is Henry. Henry is currently 11 years old. He is in the 5th grade. He has very recently qualified for special education services, and this presentation will talk about the first IEP meeting that is being held for him. So, how does Henry qualify for an IEP? Specifically, Henry has a dual exceptionality. He has a specific learning disability, which can be referred to as an SLD. He also has other health impairment, which can often be referred to as OHI. Specifically, Henry has dyslexia and ADHD, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. In his first IEP meeting, we're going to set goals, accommodations, and modifications for him in order to support him academically in the classroom and social and emotionally in the school setting as well. So, what exactly is stated in Henry's IEP? We have a couple of goals for him, and I have them listed here. His first goal is that in 1 year's time, in a small group setting, Henry will determine two or more main ideas and key details of a text with 80% accuracy as measured by teacher charting and observation. His second goal is that in 1 year's time, in a variety of settings, Henry will demonstrate focus on a task and complete assignments on time in 8 out of 10 opportunities as assessed by teacher observation and reports. So these are goals that we believe Henry is fully capable of meeting, and his IEP accommodations and modifications will be placed to help him reach these goals within that 1 year goal. So, what are his modifications and accommodations? These are the ones that we have listed in his IEP, and there are quite a few. So, we're going to use small group individual instruction. We're going to use visual aids such as pictures, transparencies, charts, and maps. We're going to provide model, specific examples, demonstrations. We're going to provide manipulatives, verbalize information as it's being written on the board. We're going to provide frequent feedback to him, and we're also going to provide immediate feedback to him. We're going to emphasize major points, main ideas, check for good contrast and clarity on his materials. We'll allow extra time for oral response. We'll allow him to use word prediction or processing software such as Bookshare, Snap and Read, and Co-Writer software like that. We'll be limiting we will limit copying from the board and provide notes if possible. General masking, graphic organizers. We're going to reduce the spelling list, homework, and writing mechanics, such as spelling, punctuation, things like that. We're going to alter materials. We can highlight the text. We can use a different font that could help him out, different background, things like that. We're going to use a lot of redirection, and we'll allow for extended time on assignments when needed. So here's the responsibility of his general education teacher. Henry's general ed teacher is responsible for familiarizing themselves with the content of Henry's IEP. That includes the accommodations and modifications that we just reviewed. They are responsible for ensuring that his accommodations and modifications are being applied in their classroom. They are going to provide access to grade level material. And so we're not giving Henry easier work. We're just providing accommodations and modifications that allow him to access the 5th grade material. And the general ed teacher will also be conducting accessible academic assessments for all students, including Henry. And that's how we will keep track of his progress in the general education classroom. So, the responsibility of the special education teacher. Henry's special ed teacher is responsible for providing and coordinating individualized instruction. He'll be working with her in a smaller group setting. She will ensure compliance with laws and regulations. She will develop an IEP for him and schedule all of his IEP meetings. She will adapt general lessons to meet his needs. And she's going to also document and track his progress so we can ensure that he's making progress towards those goals we talked about in the beginning. So, how is this support going to take place? Both the special education teacher and the general education teacher are going to work together and work with Henry to ensure that his needs are being met. That includes ensuring that those accommodations and modifications are being used in both classrooms and keeping track of his progress. They're going to both keep track of his progress to ensure that those accommodations and modifications that we set are appropriate, that they're working for Henry, and that they're allowing him to access a free and appropriate public education, which is often referred to as FAPE. So that's how we are going to give him support, but how are we going to make sure he's making progress and how are we going to measure it? There's going to be several different ways that we're going to measure Henry's progress. So, just like he was before, Henry will continue to take the iReady diagnostic tests in math and reading 3 times a year. We take them in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. That's one way we'll be measuring his progress. He's also going to take his iReady growth check test once a month. So we could see his monthly progress as he's taking those growth checks. Formative assessments will be given daily in general and special education settings. So, formative assessments are quick check ins. We could do FIST of 5, scale of 1 to 5 of how well he thinks he's understanding the content. It could be a quick exit ticket, things like that, that aren't huge assessments, but quicker check ins so we can make sure that he's understanding the content. And summative assessments will also be given and tracked periodically. Those would be the bigger tests, maybe a unit test, an end of lesson test, something to track his progress after a longer period of time. And we'll use his accommodations and modifications during those assessments as well to make sure that he has access. So, how do we know if the supports are actually working? So, results from all assessments will be considered so we can achieve like a full picture point of view. We don't want to use just one assessment to make sure that he's making progress because then we aren't seeing the whole scope. If he did maybe not so great on one test, that doesn't mean he's not making progress. Maybe he just didn't have a great testing day. It's really important we look at all those different formative and summative assessments and track those data points so we can see his progress. Observations from all of his teachers will also be documented and discussed as needed. If we see something that he needs, that could be something we could talk about and add into his IEP as well. And of course, parent feedback and communication is always helpful and always appreciated. If there's something that the parent notices that they think could be helpful to Henry, we would love to know it. Parents know their children best. And so if there's anything we need to know, we're always willing to communicate about that. What happens if the supports aren't working? If the supports aren't working, another IEP meeting can be held to address this. We can use this meeting to talk about what supports are not working. We can use data that we have from Henry's assessments to back up claims, and we can talk as a team to figure out possible solutions. We can use the information that we've all collected to make changes to Henry's IEP. We can include more or different accommodations and modifications that the team decides are more appropriate, and then we'll see if those are helping him out. And of course, parents also have the right to request an IEP meeting at any time. So if you feel like Henry's needs are not being met and that's something you would like to discuss, you can request an IEP meeting and we can decide as a team what we can do to help him out and make sure that we give him the best education possible. And what happens next? For now, the teachers that work with Henry will be implementing the accommodations and modifications that were stated in his IEP. The special education teacher is going to work with Henry in a small group setting 1 hour a day for reading interventions. Progress will be measured and observed to determine if the accommodations and modifications that he is receiving are appropriate and effective. And unless another IEP meeting is needed or requested, we will have another one in a year. We do one IEP meeting per year. But hopefully, the accommodations and modifications that we set for him are working and they help him to reach those goals that we set. Okay, so that was my presentation. Thank you.